I am a woman, and I have always envied how quickly the men around me form friendships. What is the secret? Story 1. We are not that deep and are easy to please. We do not need to know everything about each other to be friends. Low barrier to entry, low maintenance, and no drama. One shared experience is usually enough bonding for a baseline friendship. Do not overthink it. We know each other's names, did things together, the vibe was fine, and we are friends now. Story 2. My secret for making good friends quickly, whether male or female, is to treat everyone I meet as if we are already friends. Have the confidence to be their friend first, and they will likely follow and be your friend in return. Story 3. Being friendly and vibing is not the same as being friends. Will I have a pint with a random person and laugh like old friends? Sure. Will I help this person move the next day? No chance. Story 4. Ron Swanson said it best. I once worked with a guy for 12 years and never learned his name. Best friend I ever had. We still sometimes never talk. Men see each other as companions or comrades. We connect with each other through shared interest. We don't overanalyze every comment and instinctively understand how the other feels. Women do not. It's about competition and being adversaries. The hardest part is that no advice will help you make female friends because, even if you make a solid effort to change how you interact with women, it still depends on the other woman also trying to be companions with you. Story 5. Usually it happens through shared wins, mutual interests, or deep insights. Team-based video games are a great example. When we work together and beat the other team, it creates a bond. We accomplish something together and had each other's backs, which builds respect and trust. From there, the friendship either deepens or we start teasing each other about our quirks and interests. Playful roasting is part of how we connect. We are also usually blunt and direct. For example, someone might say, "Come on, dude, lock in, you're playing poorly." But we do not take it personally. We take it as accountability and step up because being called out means you are included and expected to contribute. Shared responsibility strengthens the connection. That is why friendships form quickly in environments like sports teams or military units. When you have to rely on each other, trust builds fast. Story 6. We are friends over something. Not generally. We are gym buddies. A guy doesn't know the name of the other guy, what he does, etc. But in that gym, they are completely on the same page, and that is what matters. That is why friendships seem simpler when they are actually more efficient, I guess. At some point, of course, you get to know more about the other person and may discover that beyond a certain point you do not really get along well. But that does not mean they now dislike each other. They may not hang out anymore, but past actions created solid reasons for mutual respect so that at the very least even a neutral friendly connection remains. Counter to that, I wonder how women do it. Sometimes it seems that women act as if they wholeheartedly accept a new person into their social circle. And then continuation of this depends on whether she conforms to the group dynamic or not, with group support either being universal or non-existent. But that is just from the outside looking in. I am pretty sure I am missing a lot here. Story 7. Because we do not automatically think the stranger is out to get us. There is no drama, just camaraderie. Story 8. Because we focus on the activity, we become excited to talk to someone about it. We do not play video games just to be with our friends. We become friends with whoever likes video games, sports, or whatever we enjoy. I have never thought to myself, he seems cool. I need to find something to talk to him about. Instead, I instantly become friends with someone who happened to mention the Roman Empire. On the other hand, that means the next person can suddenly become our new friend, and the last person is just a schedule change or an interest away from disappearing. It works both ways. Story 9. I'm not a psychologist, but here is my genuine belief. The secret is we talk about things, not people. When you talk about people and you know other women talk about people, then you know some women are judging you behind your back. Women are their own targets of discussion. Men don't work like that at all. Our target of discussion is a car engine or the Roman Empire or something. It's us discussing a common thing, like our thoughts are kind of parallel and in harmony. Whereas women talking about other women means there is a lot of crossfire involved with their thoughts. You see it a lot. The girls are talking about someone's baby, her hair, how much weight she gained, complimenting shoes, judging makeup jobs. The guys, on the other hand, are talking about what would happen to the Earth if the moon really was made out of cheese. Girl conversations are like getting to know everybody on the bus without the bus going anywhere. Guy conversations are about flying that bus to outer space and back in total silence. This is why we hardly learn anything new about our friends. Story 10. One way to get people to like you and want to be friendly is to take an interest in what interests them and show enthusiasm for what they bring to the world. As long as someone has some interest going for them, that's good enough for me. Of course, some people seem to have nothing to express, nothing interesting they have learned, read, or even watched on television recently. I have a hard time showing much positive interest in people like that. I can carry a conversation for a while, but anyone who sits there quietly and has nothing to say bores me after a while. Dale Carnegie wrote a book about being interested in other people. You have probably heard of it. I am not an extrovert at all. I have just acquired social skills and have a curiosity about the world as I find it, including the people and what motivates them. Story 11. It's not that hard. Find common interests. I also engage with them about their interests. One of my best friends loves skating and punk music. I am not a huge fan or have deep knowledge of either, but I listen intently when he is excited about them. I also think it is easier for me because of the military. You are forced to live, eat, and work together with people from diverse backgrounds. This makes it easier to make friends. Story 12. Many men are taught from a young age to work together, whether through team sports, work, or other activities. Long ago, a group of men had to come together on a hunt. They needed to form a team, assess strengths and weaknesses, plan accordingly, and execute that plan. Therefore, men often find it easy to connect with each other on a somewhat superficial level. Just being a man and sharing that common experience is usually enough to enable teamwork. Story 13. Probably because men do not make demands. Friendship means watching a movie and sharing a pizza. As soon as you start asking for more, imposing your will, demanding time, insisting on loyalty, or feeling hurt and betrayed when you are not included in every activity, then you are not really looking for a friend. You are looking for a servant. Story 14. You want to do karate in the garage? If anyone asks me this, it is an instant yes from me. I always want to do karate. Story 15. Shared interests. That is how men bond. We are often more interested in things than in people and simply enjoy talking and problem solving about those things. Story 16. Probably just wired that way. Anyways, low emotional vulnerability and an understanding of what is generally acceptable. It is not really friendship. It is just that men expect other men to behave in certain ways, and they will generally get called out on it when they do not. If one of my friends treats a random person badly who does not deserve it, I am not obligated to take his side. I am going to tell him to stop being an ass, and we will both get on with life. So you sniff each other's butts as a vibe check, and then just pretend that you are better friends than you really are while avoiding topics that we would all rather not talk about with strangers. Real friendships take longer. Story 17. Men seem to have many ways they like to play together. Golf, gaming, music, and mayhem. Women have these interests too, but possibly not to the same extent. Story 18:1. Our standard is lower. 95% of our friendships are not going to involve the depth of exchange and interests that women's friendships do. We do not. We just pretend and continue with the common activity we are doing. Story 19. Easy come, easy go. Most male friendships are based on shared experiences and are not emotionally deep. However, we have a few close friends we hold on to for a long time. Sometimes there are longer gaps when we do not talk, such as only speaking every few months, but if called upon, we would be there for them. Story 20. Do we? Yeah, I am easy to get along with and funny, so it might seem like I am close friends with someone I just met, but usually we do not hang out. Story 21. I cannot say for certain, but my older sister explained that she had more male friends because girls were always competing. It was not obvious, but there was always some drama or tension. Speaking of drama, she said that it is almost unbearable and very foolish. She did have female friends, but they were a small circle. Males do not care about this. Typically, we do not try to one-up each other or create drama. We do not care what other males are wearing. We can make anything fun, even chores. We laugh at the simplest things. I also noticed that many females tend to stick to their mean girl ways. There are, of course, males who act as jocks or engage in bullying, but we do not justify their behavior and usually call each other out when someone is acting foolish for no reason. I think the most important thing is that as males age, people care less and less about us. Because of this, we are very welcoming to positive interactions since we do not experience them very often. Story 22. We do not look for ways to put each other down through compliments. Instead, we insult each other as a means by which we bond. Story 23. As a man, what are you even talking about? I have not made a new friend in years. It took me 2 to 3 years of spending time with my wife's friend's family to call her husband a friend. Story 24. I don't think this is really true. Yes, men may make acquaintances more easily, but with most men, we tend to meet a couple of friends in our early years who we then hold on to for almost the rest of our lives. We will definitely have other friends along the way who can join that circle, but I find true male friendships do not come nearly as easily as people make them out to be. From my perspective, it seems women are more likely to make friends easily. Story 25. Fun question. My personal opinion is that guys are more able to be casually friendly. Here is what I mean. In my experience, it is not that women do not become friends quickly. I have seen it happen, but it happens in a very different way. For example, a female friend of mine and I both went to a social dance event where she met another woman. By the end of the dance, they had exchanged numbers, had conversations about deep topics, and acted like they had known each other for a very long time. It is not an entirely common phenomenon, but I have seen it happen enough that it has always amused me. I feel like when women become friends with other women, they need a connection that is quite intimate. Guys do not. I have seen examples where two men have an incredibly friendly time together without even knowing each other's names by the end of it. Guys are more able to form friendships based on vibes and general niceness without requiring a deep connection from the start. Naturally, there tend to be more men who are friendly, compared to women who want to share their whole life story right away, so it makes sense that men are more likely to form friendships quickly. I would not be surprised if this is why, in my experience, women not being friends with each other anymore seems to be a bigger deal than men, since much more intimate details had been shared to get to that point. But that is just a theory. A sociological theory. Thanks for reading. Story 26. It is somewhat superficial. We just have to be comfortable with each other, but we also do not rely heavily on each other. Story 27. Men have been sizing each other up for eons, threat detection and all. We know so much about a man within just a few minutes of meeting each other. It is kind of scary. Men are not that deep. 80% of what you need to know is basically on the surface. If you give us a few minutes, you know if you are going to be buddies. But we also have a vibe. When you find your vibe in another man, you know how they think and what they like. Then suddenly you are best friends. I met a man at a friend's outing. We chatted briefly and then found ourselves separated from everyone else. Chatting a lot. We talked for about 4 hours and basically became best friends. I see him multiple times a week. We have lunch together. The men here will know what a big deal that is. Story 28. I met my best friend in the break room at work. We were complaining about the same bad manager. A year later, I was the best man at his wedding. A bad boss can truly be a life-changing experience. Story 29. I don't become friends with most men. I try to see the good in people and treat everyone well, but there are only certain people I really enjoy spending a lot of time with. Thankfully, I am good at recognizing people I would probably like a lot, and people I would want to spend less time around rather than more quickly. Becoming friends, though, I think has to do with being genuine, kind, and interested all at once. I'm not really sure. I have made multiple friends as an adult. It's strange how you can do something fairly well and not know how. Story 30. We do not need things to be that deep before becoming friends. Hey, you are wearing a sports ball jersey of a team I like. We are friends now. Come have a beer. Story 31. I do not know if this is correct or not, but I believe it depends on what you focus on. Many men and women focus on the wrong things when befriending or associating with others. In your case, wherever you are, women are doing this more than men. So, men focus on things they have in common, while women focus on things they do not have in common. Story 32. It just kind of happens. I considered myself an introvert or ambivert at most. But in my all-boys college, I still ended up making 2 or 3 somewhat close friends and a few casual friends I can joke with. Story 33. I bond over shared interests mostly and tend to be very passionate about my interests. That means I actively seek out people who share those interests. So far, I have met far more men who enjoy the same hobbies I do than women. That is my theory. Story 34. It's really not that hard. Question. Hey, you like medieval history? I also love medieval history. Do you want to grab coffee sometime? Answer. Sure. Story 35. Honestly, once I started to understand that many women move through the world on guard because they have to for safety reasons, it made a lot of sense. As men, most of us do not carry that same baseline concern. When you are not constantly scanning for threats, it is easier to relax, open up, and be friendly with strangers. I do not think it is that we are better at making friends necessarily. It is just that our default experience in public spaces is less tense. Story 36. I noticed that my husband mostly keeps his friends based on their ability to help with his business, such as making investments, helping with loans, or introducing new clients. Even though some of his friends are dishonest and abusive, he will not end the friendship because they are doing well in their business. Story 37. I swear men have this secret code or something. I watched my boyfriend meet another man at a bar. They talked about basketball for 5 minutes and suddenly they were planning weekly game nights. It took me 6 months of careful friendship building just to ask my friend to be my bridesmaid. Story 38. Honestly, I am amazed at how my boyfriend and his new coworker became best friends in just 2 days. They discovered they both play Rocket League and now they hang out every weekend. Story 39. We tend to be good at reading other men, and our threshold for being friends is incredibly low by female standards. I don't have to really have anything in common with my friends. As long as they are good men, that's all that really matters. Several years ago, I went with my then girlfriend, now wife, to a girls' brunch. They all brought their boyfriends, and none of us had ever met before. Almost all the guys instantly got along, except for one man we all thought was no good. After brunch, we all went our separate ways and told our girlfriends that the man was no good. To a woman, they all got upset and said we barely knew him, so how could we make that judgment? As it turned out, he was a liar, cheater, and thief. Story 40. Sure, it's easy to just say it's not that deep or it's easy, but honestly, between me and my friends, there is a lot of sad solidarity in our bonds. Let us take the average patriarchal typical home and think about many traits that are undoubtedly toxic and reinforced. Tuck your emotions, be strong, be a man. Suck it up, you are a boy, touching other men is wrong. You have to be the alpha breadwinner. I was personally raised by my grandmother and mother like this. I have many friends who were in similar situations with many different people. But because of all that, I am not really close to them. I cannot be friends with someone like that. You are not allowed to be vulnerable. But how many times have I, even at the bare minimum, been allowed to be vulnerable among other guys? Even if it is really simple things like, man, this teacher is frustrating, or my car broke down. This sucks. My parents would have said, do not talk about your teacher that way. Just work harder and get your car fixed. You need that. But my friends, they get it. Even classmates I just met. That sucks. I have been supported by acquaintances. Maybe I am audacious or reaching, but most guys I have met, it is kind of like we both know how life can be hard. We bond over talking about silly things like fighting a gorilla with many other copies because it is nice to be allowed to be goofy in ourselves. Story 41. If you look at the pre-Neolithic Revolution era, men's jobs were hunting food to feed their family and community, and protecting the community from invaders or wild animals. Nothing about the men you fought alongside mattered except for the hunt. I think men are able to keep that single-task-minded approach to relationships. You play pickup basketball or a certain video game. When are we playing? This past weekend I was in my hometown. and a few of my friends and I were talking about the sports we used to play together. We talked about a guy named Isaiah from high school whom I met in physical education class. I invited him to join the intramural basketball team in winter because we needed a point guard, and he was solid in physical education. Then we convinced him to play rugby with us that spring. My wife asked, "Why haven't you talked about him before?" We were friends but not close. If I saw him at a bar, I'd say hey and have a drink with him, but I wouldn't go out of my way to invite him out. She was baffled that I invited him to join the teams, even more so that he accepted. Historically, women had to be more selective about the people they became close to because the politics of village life were more important than those of the hunters. Who you let near your children was also who helped to raise your children. Story 42, we keep it simple. There is no room for pointless envy or drama. It is easy for people to warm up to each other as long as they are willing to be kind and have no ulterior motives. Story 43, male-to-male friendships do not require an emotional connection, only camaraderie, which is a much lower hurdle. This is why most women can be just friends with men, but most men cannot be just friends with women. Women expect an emotional element to all relationships, both friendly and romantic, while men associate that with more than friendship. Story 44. I am a woman, and I have always envied how quickly the men around me form friendships. This is honestly not my experience. Quite the inverse. As far as I am concerned, it is women who bond quickly with one another. On the other hand, I do not envy women for their friendships because, under a thin veneer of friendliness, they often seem more adversarial and toxic, while male friendships are more loyal and supportive. Story 45. Men are straightforward and honest about their feelings. If a man does not like another man, they will both know it immediately. Also, if men have a conflict, even a fight, they can generally bury the hatchet and move on. If a woman truly dislikes another woman, all bets are off. She might pretend to like her just to plan revenge and prolong it over a long period without ever resolving anything. Therefore, women need to be more cautious when opening up and confiding in other women. Story 46. Well, I have become friends with people who have the same name and spelling as mine. Oh, your name is my name, and it has two L's too? That is the best way to spell it. Those with one L are fakes. We should have a group of our names and hang out one day. Story 47. I once went fishing with a new acquaintance. We didn't catch any fish, so we decided to take a dip in the lake instead. We jumped from the boat in our underwear, and when we got up, we just sat there. Then he pointed at me and said, "Well, there they are, your testicles." I looked down and realized I had a big hole in my underwear, and my scrotum was hanging out. We laughed and instantly became great friends. Story 48. They make acquaintances, not friends. I have men whom I like, spend time with, and laugh with. They are mostly acquaintances. A few of them would hide me from the police, let me stay with them for a couple of months, or help defend me against a gang, and I would do the same for them. Those men are my friends. Story 49. Instinct, vibe, male intuition. You sense that you have things in common and want to help each other. It is in our DNA. Building a fence, fixing a car, and so on. I envy the way women keep friends. Story 50. We are not crabs in a bucket. We are not rude to each other. We like to see each other succeed. We do not get bothered by trivial matters. If we have an issue, we discuss it, resolve it, and do not pretend to read each other's minds. Story 51. Unlike women, men are not in constant competition with each other. They do not view each other as enemies or adversaries immediately, unlike women. Story 52. Men are not as judgmental and catty. There is generally no question if a man means what he says to another man, whereas women are constantly hiding their true feelings. Story 53. I have said this on other forums. Men naturally and instantly size each other up upon first meeting, with the ultimate transgression being a physical altercation, and almost always know where they are in the social hierarchy. We never break this hierarchy because it eventually ends in physical violence. Just because someone is above or below you does not mean you cannot be best friends. This is why men can literally fight, resolve the conflict, and actually become closer because of the resolution. Women, on the other hand, do not usually fight physically head-on and tend to have extreme in-group bias, even against other women. Women vet for exclusion while men vet for inclusion. Story 54. It depends. I feel like it used to be more that way. Honestly, many men these days have become very feminine. They get jealous easily, gossip, backstab, and are constantly trying to compete with you. This is not true of all men, obviously, but it is much harder to find new male friends these days who act like actual men. Story 55. If guys have one thing in common, it is that they can talk about it forever and bond. We do not overanalyze things, are non-judgmental for the most part, and are easy to be around when we get along. Story 56. Do not judge. No one is perfect, so do not be critical. Appreciate what you like about others and have fun. Keep it simple. No worries. No expectations. Relax. Story 57. I found a cool stick. You are nice. Can I try? Sure. That is how a friend is made. No name is even needed. Story 58. For me, it is simply how I treat anyone I do not know. The secret is being friendly and cordial while giving all strangers the benefit of the doubt until I am given good reason to behave otherwise. If I see someone who seems cool to me, then I become curious and actively interested in possibly befriending that person. For me, this is just common sense and pragmatic. I give women the same treatment, but it is not hard to notice how they are initially put off by such candor. I am not sure why or what causes this, but my best guess is that they think I am romantically interested, which is hardly the case. Story 59. Either we have things in common or not. We are not analyzing and judging everything about them or trying to figure out if they are some sort of threat. Story 60. Most of us tend not to care what others think about the world. We share a passion for projects, compare our cars, or even just share a beer. Story 61. For many guys, we are not very detail-oriented when it comes to people we befriend. There are many aspects of my life that I have hardly shared with even my closest male friends. Not because I am insecure or anything like that, but because I do not really care to share all the details. I prefer to be silly, make jokes, and laugh about things. Before you know it, we are practically like brothers. That is why I enjoy hanging out with the boys so much. We can be the most immature people on earth, but we have a good time doing it. I am still a bit foolish around the ladies too, though I just dial it back a notch. Story 62. Exactly my thought yesterday. They easily see each other as brothers more than we women. They don't envy each other. They support each other and don't see each other as competitors. But us women, when you meet your fellow woman, she hates and gives you attitude at first glance. Why? Story 63. Men's friendship dynamics are often considered superficial by many women. This perception makes it easier for men to befriend other unfamiliar men. Story 64. Male friendships are often based on activities, even if that activity is just watching a ball game. If you meet a man and you have played a round of golf with him or gone on a run together, you can reach a level of friendship without knowing anything else about him. Story 65. If you are a woman, imagine the least amount of pressure you have put on something, and then divide it by 100. Story 66. I used to have a roommate for more than 3 years. I still do not know his name. I am sure he does not know mine either. Still, we talk. Story 67. The secret is we do not develop friendships. They are just shallow acquaintances who we can do without or see every week. It makes no difference. However, please, no more than one time per month and no names. Story 68. You share the same hobby. You participate in the hobby together. You never talk about anything else. Boom. 20-year friendship. Story 69. Men and women form friendships differently. The secret is that our brains are different from women's. We do not think the same way. Story 70. Because we are simple creatures, we do not overcomplicate things that do not need to be complicated. For instance, I have talked with my neighbor for 2 years, we went out for coffee, and I do not know his name. Story 71. The scientific answer is that men tend to have a wider circle of casual friends, whereas women tend to have a much smaller circle of close friends. In summary, Men are generally more comfortable having friends they do not know well. Story 72. I do not have to talk to a man for long to gauge if his sense of humor is compatible with me. And most men actually do know it is just nice to be nice. Story 73. At least for me, it is not even real friendship. I do not even know the names of the guys I have chatted with over the years at work. Story 74. Literally one common interest or hatred of something is all it takes for me to have a new best friend. If we have two, I will probably have the person around until one of us dies. Story 75. Maybe it's that we get along really well in side-by-side situations rather than face-to-face. We give each other a lot of emotional space while talking. We are not looking for big answers too quickly. That comes later. I do not know if the inverse is true for women. It is just my 2 cents. Story 76. We typically do not. We just become buddies fast. It is because we like to talk about non-personal things. Cars, sports, games, politics, food, whatever. So when you meet a person, it is easy to start a conversation and become buddies. Does it mean he is a friend? No. Story 77. Say what? I am not reasonably confident a man is my friend until he has stuck around for a couple of years at least. Other men give you so little feedback it is hard to know whether you are friends, and when they leave they usually do so without explanation. Story 78. We either become friends instantly and would die for each other within 5 minutes of meeting, or we remain moody and distant for 30 years, paradoxically being the greatest of friends. That plus names are optional. Story 79. We don't. I can be cooperative and get along easily with other guys, even joke around. However, I wouldn't consider them my friends. I am very selective about calling someone my friend. Story 80. We are friendly and respectful because we all learn from childhood to be respectful to others, or there is a real chance of getting punched in the face at any time. It is something we learn, and I do not think women do. If two men really connect, which is rare, they will stay friends. If they do not, they will remain friendly when they meet but never become close friends. Story 81. You all become best friends with every woman you meet in the bar bathroom. I do not think this applies to us. Story 82. My longtime friend since high school, now both in our 30s, and I became instant friends when I asked him if he liked a certain game. It was that easy. Story 83. There is not much depth to it, at least at first. It is like being hired to be a cashier versus being hired to be a chief financial officer. Story 84. Men are men, and as such, we each go through the same levels of nonsense in that we have the same hurdles we jump that are endemic to, well, just men. It's natural to empathize and sympathize with them because I face or have faced similar obstacles as a fellow man. Friendship is thus created then in an easy nod of the head. Nods. You deal with this nonsense too. Nods. Oh yeah. Chugging along through the nonsense here too. Friendship activated. Story 85. I need and expect nothing from another man. Therefore, if they are in the same place I am, doing the same thing I am, and are not difficult, we can get along for the time being. If not, then I have lost nothing. Women treat every casual acquaintance as if they are on a first date and worry and overanalyze everything. Story 86. This will not be popular here on Reddit, but male bonds are different from female bonds. I do not know if it is evolutionary, perhaps because men who could not bond tightly and quickly were more likely to be killed while hunting alone, but it is just different. Anyone who has been part of Greek life can tell you that fraternity and sorority bonds are different. Story 87. Because we only need one shared interest, there is no need to connect on an emotional level. Guys hang out over activities, so I can be friends with any man who likes fishing, golfing, watching football, hunting, or similar activities. Story 88. I worked with some guys and became friendly with them. After a few years, I became friends with some of them. We did things together outside of work with guys who had the same interests. I also met a group I ran with on weekends and became friends with them. We started doing other activities together like hikes and parties. Then I got injured and lost touch with them. There was a time when I was more active and had different workout friends. Now I am retired and do not have much of a social life, just my wife and grandkids. Story 89. We have universal similarities. Even across different countries and cultures, We know people are still pretty much the same as us in at least some ways, so we naturally try to let that be the basis for forming a bond. In brief, we look for shared interests and then we are able to connect with others about things we did not have anyone to talk to about. It is all about being a friend. Story 90. Unlike women, we do not feel like we are in competition with each other. If we share a common interest, we just spend time together. We do not try to outdo each other. Story 91. I have regular board gaming nights with my friends, and it has been going on for over 10 years. Afterwards, my girlfriend usually asks how they are, and the most I can tell her is that they are alive. When you never discuss your deepest fears, your sexual preferences, or other highly sensitive topics, there is a much lower need to vet people before promoting them to friend status. It has its pros and cons. Story 92. I am a female. The vast majority of my friends, lifelong by now, are males. Women are typically mean, backstabbing, and superficial. Story 93. I always thought it was women who formed friendships so quickly. I mean, women will meet each other, and after 20 minutes, they know each other's life story. Story 94. There is a short answer and a longer answer here. The shorter answer is that men can bond over aspects of their lives. If we both like the same sports team, we become friends. We might be on different sides politically, but we bonded over that sports team. The longer and deeper answer, in my opinion, is that men for centuries had to hunt together. Teamwork was essential for survival, so men naturally work well together. Men very quickly develop a hierarchy. It does not take long for men to figure out who the leader is in a situation. Call it alpha male or whatever, but it is not always the strongest. Gather a group of men who have to survive in the woods, and it could be the oldest, weakest man who is the leader if he has incredible knowledge. Now, what about women? For centuries, they managed the home and children. Women, in general, are significantly better at multitasking daily duties. They did not need to band together for survival. To a small degree, they also competed for the strongest, best male. Yes, some men competed for certain women, but in the early centuries, it was mostly reversed. Story 95. By friends? What do you mean? There are a lot of classifications. 1. Friendly acquaintance. I only see them when doing the activity we both do. We do not plan hangouts or talk outside of that event. We are friendly when we see each other but otherwise have nothing in common and do not discuss anything deeper than the shared activity. Activity-based friend. Similar to a friendly acquaintance, but I talk with them about personal matters outside the activity we both do. Otherwise, there is little to no contact outside that activity. Sometimes hang out. Not part of the regular group, but if something is happening with a larger crowd, they may be invited despite not being a member of the core group. This type tends to be an interim while introducing this person to my other friends to see if they get along before inviting them to more things. This person has more contact with me outside of our shared activity or other kinds of hangouts. Beyond these are regular hangouts and higher level, deeper friendships. The above are more casual and accessible to attain with random people. Not everyone is looking to add to their friendships outside the activity, and trying to make everyone have the same depth of friendship is a waste of time. Story 96. Because, by and large, men do not view other men as competition. From a very early age, men tend to accept the reality of the world. If a man is attractive, he will get lots of women. If a man is not attractive, he will not. If you want to have a chance with an attractive woman, you have to improve yourself somehow. If a man can fight, you learn not to run your mouth because you will get beaten, or you learn how to fight. If a man is the kind of person who steals or does shady things, you learn to be cautious around him. Consequently, we all fall into line in terms of hierarchy and just accept it. If a group of 12-year-old boys go to summer camp, a hierarchy will form in the cabin. Leaders, followers, the funny guy, the guy with connections, the guy the girls want to flirt with, the athletic kid who is good at games, the quiet kids, and so on. It is not like that with women. Women tend to want to compete with one another. They all view themselves as equal regardless of whether they are or not. That creates situations where mean girls group together, girls into boy bands group together, girls into makeup and fashion group together, and so on. Women typically group with people similar to them because within that specific group, they can all be on equal footing, at least in their minds. Men instinctively understand that life is not equal, and it is easier if you just accept things and adapt. Because of that, men can make friends much more easily. Story 97. I think what you are mistaking is men making acquaintances easily. We are not really friends because most men just care about the vibes. We understand that most people do not really care that much about one another, especially people you do not know well, so why fake it? Embrace the situation and roll with it. You do not need to know someone really well to have a good time with them as long as the vibes are there. You might never meet them again, but you will always have the experience. So make the most of it and enjoy yourself. We do not expect a random person we have never met to have our back or go out of their way for us. That level of trust is reserved for people we know will stick around and be there when we need them. That does not mean you cannot have fun and enjoy time with others. Those people are our friends, and most men only have a few of those. Story 98. It doesn't take much to become friends. I have seen the same coworker here and there, and now we greet each other all the time. I do not know his name. Story 99. We let the petty issues go. We do not dwell on negativity. We like male company because whether the conversation is surface level or deep, we gain a connection. Story 100. Sometimes I think women see friends as competition, although I have no clue why. Men really do not see things that way. This probably relates back to hunter-gatherer society, where women gained status likely at the expense of other women, while men were valued more for physical attributes and hunting ability. Story 101. You might not like the answer, but it is tribal. Most men tend to see similarities, not differences. We basically look at the assets each person brings, not the assets we lack. Story 102. Most men do not see other men as competition, or at least not nearly as much as women see each other as rivals. I am not saying some men do not get very jealous of other men, but it is not nearly as common. Story 103. I think some of it is innate. I believe men developed, were created, or evolved to immediately learn coordination and teamwork or companionship with one another because we were the hunters. One man making a mistake or working without being part of the team would ruin the hunt. We all fail or succeed together in providing food for the village. Conversely, women were around each other all day in the same spot, doing the same chores, raising children, and so on. The stakes for women to get along with each other were much lower. Martha does not like Mary? Well, just do not talk to her, and nothing bad really results from it. Mike does not like Tom? Well, now their arguing has caused the buffalo to run away, and everyone starves. Story 104. Being guys is so fun, not gonna lie. I still learn amazing things about my friend of more than 10 years. We can be furious with one another one day, go to bed, and it is just resolved the next day. Not even in an ignoring way, just easy and drama-free. Story 105. Most men have a similar understanding of things. We can get on the same page quickly. It is like a code that we follow. Story 106. It's because most men are easy to be around. We just want to be nice and have a good time. Women often get vindictive and expect too much from people. Men just expect their friend to show up with a six-pack, ready to have fun and chat. Story 107. Especially by adulthood, there is a vague understanding that friends come and go, and you cannot control how or when. Watching a game at a bar together by chance? Great. Agree to do it again next week? Sure. 40-year tradition? Bet. Have a 30-minute conversation about water heaters? Awesome. Never see that person again? Okay. For men, right? The worst a stranger can do is physically confront you or speak badly about you. But if you do not give them any meaningful information and they are not clearly hostile, you are probably safe to be open around them. I have been playing cards once a week with the same 3 to 5 men for 4 years, know 2 of their jobs and 1 of their spouses' names, and we only just started a group chat and exchanged phone numbers in February. We sustained a same time next week? Routine for years. Story 108. Because the requirement for being my friend is that I do not dislike associating with you and that we may have a common interest. Story 109. Men have an easier time making friendships because they are more disposable. They still have their hunter-gatherer tribal instincts. Men were often the ones doing dangerous things like fending off enemies and hunting large animals. Although women participated, men are more wired for these tasks. Because of this, men tend to die more frequently. If a tribe is left with fewer men, it could become vulnerable to violence from another tribe or face difficulties in obtaining enough food. Making friends easily helps maintain a stable number of men in the tribe. Women have a harder time because men often provide resources to the women and their offspring. If more women enter the tribe, it could mean that a man's resources might be shared or taken by another woman. Story 110. I actually think it is deeper than this. Most boys and men have to learn at an early age that nothing comes easy and the world is full of rejection and hardship. Overcoming hardship and dealing with life builds your value based on what you can provide and how others perceive your worth through accomplishment. This is not a conscious realization for many, but for most guys it is part of their operating system. When that is your baseline and shared experience, everything else is trivial and being friends is easy. It is rooted in empathy and subconsciously knowing the challenges the other person has had to overcome or should strive to overcome to become a better version of themselves. A lot of male friendships I have been a part of have revolved around growth as a person, friendly competition, or shared interests within these hierarchies. At least this has been my perspective. With women, there are just a bunch of other forms of social conditioning to overcome, alongside trust building for them to feel safe or comfortable being friends, which is understandable. Story 111. All it takes is one common thread. Playing the same sport, working in a similar field, going to the same school, or growing up in the same town. Two people showing up to a function wearing the same shirt is enough for them to argue over who is paying for the other's drinks. Story 112. We know we look less psychopathic when we move in groups because it is uncommon to find groups of psychopaths together. However, just one individual is immediately suspicious and, in many situations, is grounds for arrest. Story 113. 1. Is this person a threat to me? If no, proceed to number 2. Friend, that is the process. If you are not going to take my life, my family, my partner, or my money, what reason do I have to dislike you? Story 114. As a man, my experience is the complete opposite. Women appear to become instant friends, and men take a bit of warming up to each other. Obviously, your experience is your experience, but it is interesting that we are opposite. Story 115. Step 1. Be in the same place. Step 2. Say something mildly funny. Step 3. Get a heh in response. Step 4. You are now brothers for life. Sometimes all it takes is a shared joke, a nod over a task, or mutual silence while doing something silly. No emotional forms to fill, just vibes. Story 116. As a man, I thought women become friends more easily than men. I went for a job interview once. For women who did not know each other went to the washroom and came back laughing and talking as if they were best friends. I was very impressed and confused. Story 117. We men are simple. I can walk over to a man with the same car as mine. If we are both enthusiasts, then there is a new friend to invite over for barbecue and beer and to talk about Audi all evening. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.